The night everything changed began with a whisper that felt heavier than a scream, a truth pressed into the quiet like a hand against a fragile chest. It was the kind of moment that divides life into before and after, when the world holds its breath and waits to see whether you will step forward or turn away. Rain tapped softly against the windows, the house smelled faintly of old coffee and memories, and I realized that loneliness can sit right beside you and still feel miles away. Before the story truly unfolds, take a second to pause. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet love that grows in broken places, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that may be hurting right now. My name is Jonathan Miller, and for most of my life, I believed I was built to endure things alone. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, where the streets were familiar and the faces rarely changed. My mother passed away when I was young, leaving behind a house that never quite learned how to breathe again. My father, Robert, did his best, but grief hardened him in ways he never spoke about. He worked long hours at the local hardware store, came home exhausted, and sat in silence at the kitchen table as if words might reopen wounds he had spent years trying to seal. I followed his example without realizing it. I built a life that was stable but empty. I became a civil engineer, moved to a modest suburb outside Columbus, and filled my days with blueprints, deadlines, and polite conversations that never went deeper than weather and work. Friends drifted away into marriages and families, and I told myself I was content. It was easier to believe that than to admit I didn't know how to let anyone stay. Then there was Sarah Collins. She came into my life quietly, like someone who didn't want to disturb anything. She rented the small guest house behind my property after moving from Kentucky, looking for a fresh start. She worked as a home health aide, caring for elderly patients with a patience that felt almost sacred. She had light brown hair she kept pulled back most days, tired eyes that carried stories she never volunteered, and a smile that appeared carefully, as if she had learned not to trust happiness too quickly. At first, our connection was simple. We shared polite nods, brief conversations about the weather, occasional cups of coffee when paths crossed early in the morning. But over time, something unspoken grew between us. It was in the way she lingered when talking, the way she listened as if my words mattered more than they ever had before. It was in the quiet comfort of sitting on the porch steps at dusk, watching the sky turn soft colors neither of us tried to name. Sarah had her own wounds. Her mother had died young, her father distant and demanding, a man who believed love was something you earned through obedience. She had been married once, too young, too hopeful, to a man who mistook control for care. When she finally left, she carried guilt like a second spine, bending her forward even when she tried to stand tall. She told herself she wasn't meant for permanence, only for passing through. The truth came out one evening when my father came to stay with me after a minor surgery. Age had softened him in unexpected ways, loosening his silence into observations that cut straight to the heart. He watched Sarah help me prepare dinner, noticed the way she moved through the space like she belonged there, and later, when she had stepped outside, he looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. He told me plainly that a man doesn't need much in this world, but he does need someone to come home to, and that loneliness is the quietest kind of damage. Those words hung in the air long after he went to bed. That night, Sarah sat across from me at the small kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug that had long gone cold. Her voice was barely above the hum of the refrigerator as she admitted that her father had always told her she needed a husband to be complete, someone to anchor her, someone to make her worthy. She said it not as a demand, but as a confession, as if she were ashamed for still carrying that belief. Something in me shifted then. Not with drama or certainty, but with a steady warmth I hadn't known I was capable of. I didn't see her as someone who needed saving or fixing. I saw her as someone who had been strong for too long without being held. And without speeches or promises, I let the truth rise in me. I told her that she didn't need to leave, didn't need to keep running, that she was already home in ways she hadn't recognized yet. From that moment, life didn't magically become easy. Love rarely arrives without cost. We struggled with fear, with the habits of solitude that had shaped us for years. I had to learn how to speak when silence felt safer. She had to learn how to trust when independence had been her armor. There were nights filled with doubt, mornings heavy with unspoken worries, and moments when old scars ached enough to make us question everything. But slowly, things began to change. We learned the rhythm of each other's lives. We cooked meals together, not because we had to, but because sharing a table felt like an act of faith. We argued, apologized, and chose each other again. My father watched from the sidelines, his approval quiet but unmistakable. The house that once felt hollow began to fill with sound, with laughter that startled me at first, with music playing on Sunday mornings. Sarah stopped seeing herself as temporary. She planted flowers in the yard, hung photos on the walls of her patients because she believed beauty mattered, even in borrowed spaces. I stopped measuring my life by achievements and started measuring it by moments. The way she rested her head on my shoulder after a long day. The way the sunset looked different when someone was there to see it with me. When my father passed away peacefully one winter, grief returned, but it did not come alone this time. Sarah stood beside me through every tear, every memory, every long night. In my weakest moments, I realized that strength isn't about standing alone. It's about allowing someone to stand with you. If this story is touching something inside you right now, if it reminds you of love you've lost, love you're afraid of, or love you're still hoping for, please stay until the end. And if you feel moved, I ask you to engage with this video, because your interaction helps these stories reach others who may feel just as alone as we once did. Years later, when I look back, I see how close I came to missing everything that matters. Love didn't arrive as fireworks or grand declarations. It arrived as a whisper, as a choice to stay, as two broken people deciding to build something gentle and real in a world that often feels harsh. Before the ending, I have one special request. Please comment below and share what kindness, home, or second chances mean to you. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Now, as I sit on the same porch where it all began, watching the light fade across a quiet American neighborhood, I understand something I wish I had known sooner. Sometimes, the greatest love stories don't begin with certainty. They begin with fear, honesty, and the courage to say stay. And when you do, you don't just change your life. You change the meaning of home forever.